The first time I saw her, she was sitting on a bus bench at 3 in the morning, and she was crying. Not the gentle movie star tears that roll gracefully down powdered cheeks, but the kind of crying that shakes your whole body, the kind that comes from somewhere so deep inside that it feels like drowning. I should have kept walking. I had my own problems, my own demons chasing me through the empty streets of downtown Portland. But something about the way her shoulders trembled in that thin jacket, something about the way she held herself like she was trying to take up as little space as possible in a world that had already told her she was too much, made me stop. I didn't know then that stopping would change everything. I didn't know that this moment, this simple decision to pause on a cold November sidewalk, would unravel and rebuild both of our lives in ways I couldn't begin to imagine. Her name was Sarah, though I wouldn't learn that for another 20 minutes. When I first approached, she looked up at me with eyes so full of fear and exhaustion that I almost backed away. I must have looked like just another threat in a city full of them. But I sat down on the other end of the bench, keeping my distance, and I said the only thing that came to mind. I'm Marcus, and I'm not here to hurt you. I just wanted to make sure you're okay. She stared at me for a long moment, and then she laughed. It was a bitter sound, sharp as broken glass. Okay? I haven't been okay in 3 years. That's when she told me her story, how she'd escaped an abusive relationship 6 months ago, leaving behind everything she owned, except the clothes on her back and her 7-year-old daughter, Emma, how she'd been working 2 jobs, sleeping 4 hours a night, saving every penny to get them into their own apartment. How tonight, after finally scraping together enough for the security deposit, she'd gotten to the landlord's office only to discover the apartment had been rented to someone else that morning. How she'd spent her last $6 on a Happy Meal for Emma, who was now sleeping at her friend's house, blissfully unaware that her mother was falling apart on a bus bench at 3 a.m. I should have offered some platitude, some empty words about how things would get better. Instead, I found myself telling her my own truth. 5 years ago, I was living in my car, I said. I'd lost my job, my savings, everything. I was a veteran with PTSD, and nobody wanted to hire someone who sometimes couldn't get through an interview without breaking into a cold sweat. She turned to look at me, really look at me, for the first time. I was wearing a decent coat, clean jeans, shoes without holes. I didn't look like someone who'd been homeless. That was the point. What changed? She asked. A woman named Dorothy, I said. And even now, saying her name brought a lump to my throat. She ran a small diner on 4th Street. I used to sit in the parking lot, trying to work up the courage to go in and ask if they had any dishwashing jobs. One day, she knocked on my window and told me to come inside. She gave me a meal, a job, and something I'd forgotten existed, dignity. She didn't save me. I did the work to save myself, but she gave me the chance to start. Sarah was quiet for a long time. Then she said, Dorothy sounds like an angel. She was, I said. She passed away 2 years ago, but before she died, she made me promise something. She said, Marcus, somebody gave me a hand when I needed it most. That's how this works. You take the hand, you pull yourself up, and then you reach down and offer your hand to the next person. She made me promise I'd do that. The words hung in the cold air between us, and I knew what I had to do. It terrified me. I'd built a comfortable life over the past 5 years. I had a small apartment, a steady job managing Dorothy's diner, which her daughter had let me take over. I had savings for the first time in my adult life, and here I was about to offer most of it to a complete stranger on a bus bench. I have a pull-out couch, I heard myself say, and the diner needs a server for the breakfast shift. It's not much, but it's a start. Sarah's face crumpled. I don't even know you. You don't know me. What if you're just a person who needs help? I interrupted. Like I was. Like we all are at some point. She cried again then, but differently. These tears were the kind that wash things clean. That night was just the beginning. Sarah moved onto my pull-out couch with Emma, a bright-eyed little girl who drew pictures of butterflies and asked 1,000 questions about everything. They stayed for 3 months while Sarah worked at the diner and saved money. I watched her transform from that broken woman on the bench into someone fierce and determined. She took online classes at night to finish her college degree. She found a support group for domestic violence survivors. She slowly, painfully, beautifully began to rebuild herself. Emma thrived too. I taught her to make pancakes in the diner kitchen on Sunday mornings. Sarah would watch us with tears in her eyes, and I understood. It wasn't just about the pancakes. It was about safety, stability, normalcy. All the things Emma had been denied for so long. But the real miracle happened 4 months later, on a Tuesday afternoon. A teenage boy came into the diner hungry and scared, wearing clothes too thin for the winter cold. He had that same look Sarah had worn on the bus bench, lost, desperate, trying to disappear. Without hesitation, Sarah walked over to him, set down a full meal, and said, "This one's on the house, and when you're done eating, we should talk. I might know someone who can help." She spent an hour talking to that boy, whose name was David. She found him a shelter that specialized in LGBTQ youth. He'd been kicked out by his parents for coming out. She gave him information about resources, about counseling, about job programs. She gave him her phone number and made him promise to call if he needed anything. After he left, I found Sarah in the kitchen crying again. Happy tears this time. "I get it now," she said. "What Dorothy told you. It's not just about receiving help. It's about what that help lets you become. She helped you helped me, and now I can help someone else. It's like this chain of humanity that keeps going." "Her legacy," I said. And we stood there in that small diner kitchen, two people who had been broken and rebuilt, understanding the profound truth that Dorothy had spent her life teaching. That kindness isn't a transaction, it's a transformation. Over the next year, our small diner became something of a refuge. Word spread quietly through the homeless community. The struggling parents, the people hanging on by their fingernails. We couldn't help everyone, but we helped who we could. Sarah started a program where people could work a few hours in exchange for meals. No judgment, no questions. I set up a resource board with information about shelters, job programs, addiction services, mental health support. David, the teenager Sarah had helped, came back 6 months later with his own story of transformation. He'd been accepted to community college, found a part-time job, reconnected with his grandmother who'd been searching for him. He asked if he could volunteer at the diner on weekends, helping others the way Sarah had helped him. The chain continued. Sarah and Emma moved into their own apartment after 5 months. It was small, but it was theirs. The day they moved in, Emma drew a picture of our diner with all of us holding hands in front of it. Sarah, me, David, and a bunch of stick figures representing all the people we'd helped. She titled it The Hand Reaching Down. Now, 2 years later, I think about that night on the bus bench all the time. I think about how close I came to walking past, to minding my own business, to staying safe in my comfortable life. I think about how different everything would be if I had. Sarah runs her own program now, helping domestic violence survivors find housing and employment. David is studying social work. Emma still draws butterflies. But now she also draws pictures of people helping each other, of hands reaching down to pull others up. As for me, I still manage the diner. Dorothy's daughter has become a silent partner, and together we've expanded our mission. We're not just serving food anymore, we're serving hope, dignity, and the radical notion that every person deserves a chance to rebuild their life. Last week, a woman came in at closing time. She was crying, holding her sleeping toddler, wearing that same look of desperate exhaustion I'd seen on Sarah's face years ago. I sat down across from her and I said the words that had started everything. "I'm Marcus, and I'm not here to hurt you. I just wanted to make sure you're okay. Her name is Jennifer. She starts work Monday morning." The chain continues link by link, hand by hand. Dorothy understood something fundamental about humanity. We're not meant to survive alone. We're meant to lift each other up, to reach down when we've climbed higher, to build ladders for those still climbing. Every act of kindness creates ripples that spread farther than we can ever know, touching lives in ways we'll never see. Her legacy isn't just in the people she helped directly, it's in every person those people helped, and every person those people helped, stretching out in an infinite network of compassion and second chances. It's in Sarah, in David, in Emma, in Jennifer, and in countless others whose names I'll never know but whose lives are forever changed. Because one woman decided that kindness matters, that people matter, that giving someone a hand up is the most human thing we can do. That's what her really means. Not just Dorothy, not just Sarah, but every woman, every person who chooses kindness when they could choose indifference, every person who stops on the sidewalk when they could keep walking, every person who reaches down when they could look away. Her Us, all of us, linked together in this beautiful, messy, sacred chain of humanity, pulling each other toward light.